we are moving on to Deadpool now.
The man with infinite thumbs. Because if they get cut off, they come back.
Happy New Comic Book Day, geeks, and welcome to issue 21 of the Script Heroes podcast.
The show where we bring you comic news, book reviews, and industry blues. My name is Joseph Jasonowski, and I'm the writer of Janitor Hero, Cunning Carly, and the Cryptoverse.
And I'm Katie Markham, scripter of the Rusty Robot Country Club and ghostwriter extraordinaire. Today we have some great polls for you. We're going to be talking about Void Rivals, number 8, The One Hand, number 3, Rook Exodus, number 1, and Deadpool, number 1.
That's right, and in the back issue review this week, we're finally getting around to doing Cyborg Rebirth, Volume 1, The Imitation of Life, after how much we enjoyed the first issue in our reading all the Rebirth titles video.
Yes. Super jazzed to talk about that one. And in the Creator Corner, again this week, we have a special guest. We've been so blessed with how many wonderful interviews and guests we've been able to have. We are going to be talking with Sapo, the creative mind behind Wanted Man, and the Tales from the Garden anthology.
That's right, and if you enjoy that interview or any other part of this episode, you can follow the pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, all at the handle Script Heroes Pod. And you can find my personal socials at all the same sites at JJAZ1111.
And I'm on all socials at Katie Markham Pro.
Now, onto the news. Okay, to start off this week, we have a little bit of positive news coming from friend of the podcast, Jonathan Hedrick, who shared yesterday that Can I Scream officially sold out at the distributor level. So his and Francesca Fantini's new title, if you want to go back 2 episodes? 1 episode? 2 episodes.
2 episodes, I think.
2 episodes. If you want to go back 2 episodes, you can check out our interview with them. We got to read Can I Scream a little bit early, which is awesome. But sold out, which is great and hopefully means we might get a little bit more. But
yeah, we also we just love to see, because that's published by Keenspot, I believe.
Keenspot, yeah.
Publisher, yeah. And so it's really nice to see smaller publishers coming up and selling well. It's great.
Yeah, I'd love to know what the run numbers were on that, but I don't know if that's something we'll ever know. But in any case, if we want to pivot into our kind of larger pieces of news for the week, first up, we have a little bit of news regarding Marv Wolfman. We kind of had some speculation they might be writing an issue of Nightwing at some point. No development on whether or not that is the case, but we do know that he will be contributing to the Legacy 300th issue of Nightwing, which is apparently going to see Nightwing run into a fictional version of Marv Wolfman, and Marv Wolfman will write, I believe, I'm looking for the exact phrasing, but I believe it is a couple of pages to have his fictional self address Nightwing.
I would like to point out, though, that this is not the first time we've seen a fictional Marv Wolfman in this current Nightwing run. Are you going to
pull up the Marv and George's Pizza? Is that what this is?
Yeah, it's right there. Look at them. And they're also at one point in a food truck selling pizza. And it, actually shows them as a couple of little dweebs. You can see the classic George Perez, Hawaiian shirt action. It's very cute. I mean, we love to see it. Get these men their flowers.
And if I want to drop a little bit of a sadder note out of there, according to this Bleeding Cool article that I'm reading, the fictional George Perez will have passed away before this issue, leaving just the fictional Marv Wolfman, as has obviously happened in the real world.
I'm not gonna cry, but I did when I saw the George Perez memorial in Gotham Knights.
Yeah, I remember. Man, Gotham Knights dropped a little bit ago now. Anyway.
Yeah, a full calendar year.
Yeah, right? In any case, let's hit our biggest and, in my opinion, coolest piece of news for the week. It involves one Mike Mignola. And I don't know if you were aware, Katie, that he has a new Dark Horse imprint called Curious Objects, which is cool. But the first book for this fictional imprint, for this Dark Horse imprint has been announced, and it is going to be an all-new anthology. Everybody's doing anthologies again now. Which, by the way, I was calling for like from the rooftops a couple of years ago, so I take full credit. And it's going to be called Bowling with Corpses and Other Strange Tales from Lands Unknown. And it is apparently supposed to be kind of the launch of an all-new fictional universe that Mike Mignola will be like one of the key creative directors of.
That is so rad. I love that. I mean, this man has proven himself to be just a connoisseur of the strange and unusual. So if there's anyone I would trust with an anthology like this, it is absolutely Mike Mignola.
Beyond that I would venture to argue that he's the best anthology comic creator out there. I don't know if anybody else has quite hit the highs that he has, in my opinion, with short stories in comics. I think short stories in comics are very hit or miss. And I think Mike Mignola has a lot more hits than misses in that category. Oh, yeah. And I personally love the short stories that he's done with Hellboy and Hellboy adjacent characters. So I am very excited for this. Obviously, this does not seem like it's going to involve Hellboy at all because it is being called an all-new fictional universe. So we no idea what that's going to kind of entail. The cover has like what looks like a zombie in a white cloak and a little boy holding a skull and a giant bat. So, classic Mike Mignola stuff. But I have no idea what the vibe of this universe is going to be. I assume it'll be demonic and strange and that kind of stuff. But beyond that, anybody could guess.
Do we know, is Mike Mignola writing and drawing stuff here? Is it like a big team?
It looks like it is going to be all him writing and Ben Stenback illustrating.
Hey, our boy from Our Bones Dust, and
it looks like the two of them are credited as the co-creators of this universe. And there is I missed this quote because they did not put it in the article, but they shoved it at the top of the article, like in the byline or whatever. And this quote from Mignola is, "I created a whole new world, not too different than our world a few centuries ago, but with a lot more gods and monsters."
All right. Well,
Ben Stenback,
a resounding
Mike
hell
Mignola,
yeah from me.
Anthology, new universe. That's some good stuff.
Those are good elements to be bringing together. I mean, that'll certainly be stuff that we're picking up.
Not to tease anything, but we might be able to ask somebody about that a little bit in a few months here. And I will not elaborate any further.
I mean, that is some great news. I all good news this week. We love to see it.
All good news this week. But talking about, one new imprint, we've got another new imprint in our pull list rec. So would you like to go talk about Ghost Machine's newest title and a couple others?
Let's do it. All right, gang, we have some rad pulls this week. We've got Deadpool #1, Rook Exodus #1, Void Rivals #8, and The One Hand #3. But of course, that's not all we picked up this week. Jaybird, what did you grab?
I grabbed Ghost Lore #9, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures April special, because, puns.
It's April. There you go.
Yeah. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles source book #2. And, of course, I had to pick up a copy of Can I Scream as well. Katie, how about you?
I only had two non-pod books this week, and they were Batman and Scooby-Doo. So, it's a vibe.
That is a vibe.
But do you have a preference for the order in which we'll discuss our pulls for the week?
Yeah, let me take this. Let me see. I think we start with the Chonky Boy of Rook Exodus. I think we then go Void Rivals, then the one hand, and I say we finish it with Deadpool.
That works for me. Let's uh, a murder joke maybe, some sort of crow joke. Let's exodus this little introductory
That's what I was
bit
thinking.
over to the book review proper. All right, we are starting off with Rook Exodus #1. Hundreds of years from now, the man known as Rook was once a simple farmer who fled the crumbling earth for a new life on the planet Exodus, a terraformed planet where all of nature, including its imported animal population, is completely controlled by humans called wardens. But when Exodus's world engine failed, the Warden's power fell into the wrong hands, creating chaos and mass evacuation for those who could afford it. The rest, like Rook, must scavenge for an escape vessel as the war for control of what's left of Exodus begins. The writer here is iconically Jeff Johns, Green Lantern, The Flash, Justice League. The artist is Jason Fabok, Justice League, Detective Comics, and Batman Eternal. The colorist is Brad Anderson, and the letterer is Rob Lee. Jay, we encountered Rook Exodus in the Ghost Machine mega preview thing, and we have now read the first issue. How do you feel?
Yes. Funny thing is, we read that little preview, and I was like, damn, that was such a good little preview for an issue. I'm so excited. I read this and I go back and I'm like, that was a bad preview for this book, because this book is so much better than anything that was in that preview. So retroactively dislike the preview more. But I love this, and if I can geek out for a moment, please. I think Jason Fabok's one of the best artists in the industry.
Yes.
I think Jeff Johns has proven that he's one of the best writers in the industry. I don't think Jeff Johns had done anything good in years. And I think that there is a level of where it's like, man, this man must have just been burnt out with DC. Because the second he does something new, and I'm like, yeah, that's the guy who did arguably the greatest Green Lantern run of all time. Because this is so ridiculously good. The world building, so which I think is where Jeff Johns has proven himself to be elite, is so good in this book. And when you pair that amazing written world building with just Jason Fabok's gorgeous artwork, top tier character designs, amazing action sequences, and just a fat issue that gives you so much, I sit here and I go, this was just so good.
It's just so good. I want to pick out a few things that you said there. I want to start with the fact that it is a fat issue. Like, is it a full 48 pages or something?
I think it's 48, yeah.
Like, it's huge. Exactly. It's so well paced. It doesn't feel big. It feels like you're just in the story. And that isn't to say that they didn't utilize all the space, because we hit on so many things. But it's, if we hearken all the way back to issue 0 of the podcast, it's like we were saying with Petrolhead, when you have that oversized issue, especially for the first issue of an indie series where it's a brand new world and you have a lot to get through, it gives you all that breathing room to introduce things at a good pace, to let people understand both your world and your character, all the rules going on, the plot that's happening. It's just such a good idea and executed so well here. You mentioned Fabok's character designs. The wardens, these people who have control over different aspects of nature. We've seen it mostly with animals. I think it might be just animals. We'll see more with the world.
I think it's wardens are just animals. There's people who have control over other things. They have like different titles for the different roles. Wardens are animals, and they have these cool animal masks that like parallel the animal they control.
And the animal masks are astounding. If you're listening, you really should look them up. I'm going to show to the camera here. Rook there. We've also got we didn't get to see her, which is like my one complaint. In this, there's also a character named Direwolf who we were introduced to in that preview, and there's a really cool pig one and a really cool bear one, and they are just,
by the way, is
swine,
the pig one.
They are just so cool, and it immediately creates such an iconic silhouette of this comic, it immediately
Yes.
makes it a recognizable thing where, like, if I saw a similarly designed animal mask, I'm like, oh, that comes from the Rook Exodus universe. And I think that is so important when you're essentially developing a world and making something that you want to be recognizable and iconic, and they totally succeed in that.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Um, this is a book that I am crossing my fingers and toes and praying that it's not going to end as a short little mini series and never be touched
Mm-hmm.
on again. Like, I really, really hope that Ghost Machine proves to be a way for us to get some indie books that just keep going. So, fingers, toes, everything crossed on that front. There's so much cool stuff going on here. I want to hit on a little thing, but something that just to me proves how good this team works together, which
Uh-huh.
is the way that we're shown time passing by these rooms that he's raiding being like crossed out. So
Yes,
we
yeah.
see him like at the beginning of the book, he goes in a room, I think 333, and
Mhm.
he raids that room for supplies. And this is in like a movie theater and pleasure center place, whatever. And they have
Previously
rooms with
apartments, which
food
is
and
why they have like
alcohol.
the numbered
Yeah.
rooms.
And so he goes into 333 at like the beginning of the issue. We then get a montage of him like building this ship. And through this we see like 713, 811, 9 something
Mhm.
like across. It's like, oh man, he's like, time is moving. This man's going through
Yeah.
hundreds of these rooms. And it's just such an easy little way to go. Time's moving. We don't need this little caption that says, 3 months later or whatever.
Yeah. And also such it's so efficient in that it also informs character. Like we can see that Rook is organized, that he's meticulous, that he's not like setting up somewhere as home. He's going through and raiding these individual rooms. He's determined not to have any sort of home here because he's so set on getting off of Exodus. Um, and so just it works so masterfully in both being interesting and informative, which I think is how you pull stuff off really well.
Yeah. No, and a hit on characterization.
Mm-hmm.
This is a book that so far, and probably gonna be a theme throughout because we're on this mostly abandoned planet, doesn't juggle a bunch of characters.
Yeah.
You get a couple, but the interactions between essentially the interaction between Swine and Rook,
Mm-hmm.
so good. Like their different perspectives just really hit on like this world, and it leaves the audience a little bit unsure of things. Like it's so easy for you to go into this and you're like, okay, the mask controls the animals in this. I think it's a month and a half or something like that before the masks are going to completely stop working. They're starting to glitch.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we have a month and a half where they're going to stop working, and if you're just following Rook, you're like, okay, that's the hard end point. If he doesn't do it, he's dead. But then you get introduced to Swine, who's like, I don't want to leave. I love my pigs. Even if I lose this helmet, I believe that they are still going to be my friends and they'll still be here with me because my
Mm-hmm.
helmet is glitching a little bit. And even when they're not under my control, they're still like, they're just listening less, I think is what he said. He's like,
Yeah.
they're not listening quite as effectively. So it puts in this contrast of like, oh, can they be okay here? Is there a chance this book's going to end with them failing to escape and now they have to live with these animals without their powers? Like, it leaves it up for. Otherwise, I think this would be such a clear cut
Mm-hmm.
of I know exactly where the story's going to go and how it's going to end, and I
Right.
think they've twisted it enough to where I'm like, this could go a couple ways.
Absolutely, and it makes me so excited to read more. We have prattled on about this
We
guy, so
have,
let's just go straight into numbers. I gave
yes.
this a 9 out of 10. I liked it so much. I think it's so cool. What'd you give it?
I am going to completely agree with you there. I gave this a 9 out of 10, and this
And
is
I'm
a
mhm.
strong pull list rec from me.
And I will agree with you there. But
So an official pull
again,
list rec.
enough time spent on Rook Exodus. Go read it yourself. It is now time for Void Rivals.
Let's do it. Void Rivals number 8. Derek and Solila go face to face with Proximus, face to face with certain death. The writer on the series is, of course, Robert Kirkman, Invincible, The Walking Dead, Oblivion Song. The artist is Lorenzo Del Felici, Oblivion Song, and Chroma. The colorist is Patricio Del Pecci, and the letterer is Russ Wooten. we have been talking about Void Rival. We did the first series. This is now the second issue that we've done as an issue instead of as a volume, because we did the first volume. Katie, how do you feel about issue 8 of Void Rivals?
I'm not gonna lie, it
Ooh,
works
there's
better
a
as a
stop there.
volume. Uh, this issue, I, I think that I read things carefully, especially stuff that we're gonna do for the pod. I
Yeah,
didn't mean to time myself reading this, but I finished writing down my thoughts on one book and picked
yeah.
this one up. I literally read this book in 3 minutes, which wasn't intentional. I wasn't speeding through or anything. Like, I was reading it
It's
as
a fast
carefully as
one.
I read any other book. Nothing. It's so, the progress that's been happening in the past two issues, because we read volume one as a volume for a
Yeah.
bonus episode, and I liked it so much. There was so much cool stuff going on, so much awesome world building. I feel like it's just been a little boring in coming back in these two, which is very disappointing to me.
I don't. Boring for this issue is something that I'm going to strongly disagree with. I think this issue raced through, but I wouldn't call it boring. I thought this issue was really cool. I like Proximus. I think the really fast, easy kind of backstory that you get between Solila and Proximus is really cool.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of cool moments in this. I love the way that Lorenzo Del Felici draws action. I think it's very
Oh yeah, like,
interesting and
it's a very
engaging.
technically beautiful, like, art for this, but it 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 just doesn't feel like it's moving to me.
I don't think it moved a ton, but I don't know. Boring to me would make it seem like it's like I would call an issue that's long and drags and nothing really like that. This to me was the opposite of boring. It was action packed. It was interesting. It was fun. It's just very little happens in the one issue, and you kind of through it. I
Mhm.
definitely I don't think it was 3 minutes I read it in, but it was fairly fast. Um, it is definitely something that is for a single issue a little bit lacking. It makes you feel a
Mhm.
little bit like you don't quite get your worth out of picking something up and reading it. Um, but I thought that there were a lot of cool concepts introduced here, and I overall I liked what was in this. I just thought it moved really really fast.
That is fair. And there were things that I liked in it. Like, I liked the world of Void Rivals. I did the, like, 3 pages of backstory we get at the front. Cool concept to then, introduce us to this, like, vibe of the relationship between Solila and Proximus. Uh, and I liked, there was specifically a moment where Solila and Handroid, not Solila and Derek, where they had a cute moment where they're able to, like, surprise Proximus by working together, which I thought was a wonderful way of showing the way that the civilizations can work together. Proximus has a very cool sci-fi bow, and I love a sci-fi bow. But the issue itself just didn't feel like it. It felt forgettable afterwards. Like, it's cool to look at, but nothing like crazy in the action made me be like, oh yeah, this is really really rad action. Like, it's good action, but it just didn't feel like there was a part of this issue that was particularly memorable or worth spending a whole issue on.
I'm gonna disagree a little bit. I think there's some great memorable moments in here. The issue ender I think is really strong and good. I think that there are great moments in the action, like you talked about, kind of Handroid and Salila working together. I think there were several cool moments throughout the action. I really like the concepts introduced here, so I don't think it's forgettable. I think it's an important issue in, like kind of the turning point of the series, because it introduces this character that I think we're going to kind of have a lot more going on with. I do wish we got a little bit more in this issue, and I do think it flies by. Overall, I think it's a simple issue, but I
Mm,
enjoyed it overall. Yeah,
that is super fair. Do you want to slap a rating on it?
yeah, I give this a 7.5 out of 10. I thought this was a good, simple issue. Again, very fast, being the main gripe that I had with it. And I
That's
wouldn't call
fair.
it a Polish wreck. We're kind of in deep here, and
Yeah,
it's not a very easily pickable issue.
as we've mentioned about Robert Kirkman before, not always the most jump onable writer.
No,
Um,
no, no.
yeah, when I think of a
But it's pretty
good
fast if
simple
you want to catch
issue,
up.
I think that I've been spoiled by Our Bones Dust in how simple those issues are, while also feeling like they have a lot of momentum and a lot of like stuff going on. I gave this a 5.5. I really just I don't think it's a book that I will think about again. And that is like a tragedy. Like, it's well done, it's well made. There's a reason it's still, if 5 is just a bang average comic, it's still a little bit better than that. A lot of that because of the art. But yeah, it just didn't do anything for me.
Fair enough. But do you want to move over to the one hand number 3?
Absolutely, I do. The One Hand, number 3. As the mysteries of the new One Hand Killer deepen, Detective Ari Nasser is starting to see the connections everywhere. The walls are closing in as his prior arrests are questioned, and yet, why does he think the only person who can help is Odell Watts, the man Ari put away years ago for the very same crimes? The writer here is Ram V of Detective Comics, Swamp Thing, and Justice League. The artist is Lawrence Campbell of the Hellboy universe, The Punisher, and Deadpool Pulp. The colorist is Lily Ridge, and the letterer is Adita Bidikar. Jay, how'd you feel about the One
Yes.
Hand number 3?
I'm enjoying the series quite a bit, as I think we both have been, or I'll say duo series, however you want to
Yeah.
phrase what's going on here. It's an interesting thing. I thought this was really fun. Fun is maybe the wrong word for the one hand, but I feel like this issue is kind of fun in a weird way.
Oh yeah, like there are so many fun like
Yeah,
twists and turns.
yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
fun.
The prison sequence is, I think, the like very strong point of this issue. Maybe the hospital sequence too. Like those
Mhm.
two sequences, I think, are the like strongest bit of this book. The other sequences, I think, are a little bit. I'm trying like the kind of the opening of the book is a little. I don't know what the word for it is. It's a little off to
I would
me,
say
I
it's a
guess.
little like
Like,
zoomed out, like a little impersonal
yeah,
compared to the other ones.
yeah, that's a good way to phrase it. Impersonal is a good way to phrase it. It's also just a little weird. Like the him kind of talking about like making it glitch is intriguing, certainly, but it feels a little weird for the character himself to say, you know.
Hmm.
But small little gripes about like the kind of beginning, and then there's kind of a section between the prison and the basically where he's being scolded for like what he's,
Hmm.
and I'm kind of
Oh, I
like
like that sequence.
a little confused about why he's being so heavily scolded for some of this stuff. Like, I kind of get the like, you went to the prison and the guy died, but then he's scolded like again after that for like, just suggesting that the thing might be a, what do they call them, a cog? And I'm like, that
Yeah.
feels like a really weird thing to be like, you're saying this might be a cog, you're going to destroy your career and destroy my career. And I'm like,
I
that
think
felt
I
a little weird for me.
if I might offer a
Yeah. Yeah.
twinge of
Go.
what I interpreted, I don't think that he's getting in trouble for implying the thing is a cog. I think he's getting in trouble for still involving himself in the case after he's been suspended.
Was he suspended?
Yeah,
I
yeah, he
thought they
turned in
removed the
his
other
gun
guy from the
badge.
case, and they said, but we have to leave you on it for continuity.
They left Mac on it, not Ari.
Oh, did I read that backwards?
Yeah, so
Let
Ari is
me.
off the case. That's why you even see when he goes to talk to the people who
Ah,
make the
okay.
cogs, they're like, "Oh, Detective Nasser," and he's like, Ari." Like he doesn't call himself detective or anything, because he is off the case. So I think that's why he gets yelled at
Gotcha.
the end,
Gotcha.
because he's
Fair.
still involving
Overall, though,
himself.
I thought it was a good issue. I like the
Mhm.
there's I have to call out that there's a place where the panels are the shape of the writing,
Yes, of the
and it's just one of the
cipher.
coolest things.
Oh,
Like
it's
just such
so
a
rad.
cool idea that I
Hmm.
loved. But yeah, I
And
thought this was a
showing
nice
the like
solid issue.
extreme violence of someone being murdered overlaid with that. Oh, yeah, I think it's a super super solid issue. The glitch thing, I was not put off by, specifically because Ari, in issue 1 experienced the glitch when he was talking to, uh, Nemone, I think her name is, and so I think that's the glitch he's going for, where he's trying to, uh, like look outside the system of rules that they're accustomed to. And I liked that a lot. Because I feel like with a lot of the stuff that is revealed in specifically the One Hand and the Six Fingers, the way that these mysteries are done is that it's never something that feels like it was hidden, if that makes sense. Like it always feels like they're discovering things in their world in a way that makes sense in their world. And it's not that they're hiding things from the reader. It's that we're all discovering these different ways of looking at things. And I just think that's a really cool and intriguing and uh, um, uh, like invested way to write a mystery. And I think it's super, super effective. This is it's been my favorite pull of the past couple months for sure. The two combined.
The two combined.
Yeah.
It's interesting because they both are the same and really aren't the same at all, you know, which is like, I guess the idea of telling the same story but with two different creative teams. Like, there's a different, or maybe there's the same vibe, but there's like a different structure to the two, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's the correct way to word it, but there's like, you get a kind of similar feeling, but they're very different reading experiences, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I would agree with that for sure.
Which is really fun. It's an interesting, unique, new way to tell a story, so I'm on board with it. But it's such a cool, interesting thing, and I am overall enjoying like the slow unraveling of the mystery. I feel like I don't want to spoil, but there's a hospital cliffhanger thing at the end here that's just oh my god,
so
and
good.
It's gorgeously illustrated.
It really, really is. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's so well done as a mystery. I feel like the information trickle is slow, but every issue feels exciting to me. Like there are these high intensity moments in these issues that don't just make it, watching a pencil pusher or whatever. Yeah. And
I'd also argue like this issue was a little bit less slow trickle. Like this issue felt a lot more like, at least it felt more like active, like Ari was actively seeking things out compared to the other issues. Like Ari felt more like, I think you talked about enjoying this book but not enjoying Ari at all. I felt like this issue started to turn me on that a little bit. I'm like, Ari's actually actively affecting the plot for once and doing things. Like that's nice.
Yeah, I'm coming around on him, and I think you're right that it's as he's taking this more active role, and we're left with his actions instead of his personality and greasy hair.
Yeah. I love the phrasing there. Do you want to slap a rating on the greasy hair?
I would love to slap a rating on this. I gave this bad boy a 9.5. I like this specific issue so much.
Nice.
Wouldn't call it a pull this track. You're in the middle of a mystery.
Yes. We've talked about this. Yeah. These kind of mystery books, especially the One Hand and the Six Fingers, like you can't jump on like part way through. Like just go back, read the whole thing, or wait for the combined collected edition. But I gave this an 8 out of 10. I thought this was really good. There were those couple kind of things in it. I don't love the opening as much, which I feel like the Six Fingers on the One Hand have both had amazing openings across the other 4 issues.
That is fair.
And so this was one that was a little bit more, but overall, very, very good. Like, very good issue. 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs and 4 pinkies. Because the 6 hand isn't. Never mind. In any case, we are moving on to Deadpool now.
The man with infinite thumbs. Because if they get cut off, they come back. I don't know. I wanted to connect it. Deadpool #1. A new era for the merc with a mouth and a gun and a sword. Introducing a terrifying new villain. And a dog. So Katie loves it. Introducing a terrifying new villain who won't stop until he catches Wade in his death grip. But all work and no play makes Deadpool a very dead boy. The writer of this book is Cody Ziegler. Amazing Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man, Spider-Punk, and like a million other Spider books. This might be the first non-Spider book he's done. His credits list was many Spider books, and I don't really read Spider books, so I am not familiar with his work. And then the artist is Roja Antonio, X-Men Red, Conan the Barbarian, and Injustice Year Zero. The colorist is Guru EFX, and the letterer is Joe Sabino. I've read a couple Deadpool comics before. I don't know about you, Katie.
Nope.
No? So how'd you feel about
the first movie? And
only the first
have
movie.
seen only the first one, yeah. and have seen various, out of context panels that just float around the
Yeah.
internet.
Did you never
Um,
play the video game?
I did not know.
Hmm.
So I truly am pretty blank slated when it comes to Deadpool. I literally think I might have more hours of like fan footage than actual canon Deadpool stuff. Because like people do like fan Deadpool team ups
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
It was alright. There was a dog, which is
There was a dog.
automatically points up for me. Yeah, I was a little nervous going into it because I feel like I have like a bad taste in my mouth for like Deadpool fans. Like I feel like they get the same kind of rep as like Harley fans, where it's like, the fans
Yeah.
of this character can be real hit or miss. At least the louder
Yeah.
ones. Um, and a lot of Deadpool cosplayers at conventions can be a bit obnoxious. So I was pleasantly surprised by the kind of held back humor. Like it wasn't joke after joke after joke after joke. There were a couple little meta jokes, one that I think worked, one that I think didn't super. Uh, but it also like gave Deadpool a good amount of heart. And I know that he's often motivated by silly things, but being motivated by, I mean, he's primarily motivated by money, but also being motivated by like, I want to be a good dad for my weird Carnage symbiote dog daughter. I think that's got the right kind of heart for me. So I was pleasantly surprised.
I don't want to disagree with everything you just said, but I disagree with most of what you just said. I found this book painfully unfunny. I found every joke to be kind of obnoxious and just like I feel like Deadpool's jokes really don't land without another character for them to bounce off of. Like the only time I found the joke funny was with that one mercenary who he like called another name, and he was like,
Mhm.
"That was my dead friend" or whatever. Like that, I feel like Deadpool needs that other character for his jokes
Mhm.
to actually be funny, because otherwise it's just like he's telling them to me, and if I don't find them
Yeah.
funny, then I just don't find them funny.
Mhm.
Um, I felt like the meta stuff wasn't well done here. Like most of the meta stuff just felt like, it's Deadpool and I have to be meta here, and they weren't particularly
See, I
funny
don't
meta
think.
things. It was more of just
Mhm.
like, this is meta, haha! Look, what are the like? There's one with the like team, like, what are those people doing the credits? Like, this page must have been hard to draw, and I was like, these just feel like I need to remind you every now and then that Deadpool knows he's in a comic book rather than
Mhm.
doing something fun with it. Um, I thought it was a competent issue. Like it works. It's fairly well paced, but the lack of other characters. There, you talk about the daughter motivation, but it's not really there in this issue. Like actually, the preview pages for the next issue were the best thing in this issue, in my opinion. Like I think the like his real daughter, I should say. Like there's the daughter thing with the dog, but I found that, eh. His real daughter, I think, would have been much more fun, and I like the pages with that
Mhm.
for the preview for the next issue. Um, yeah, it just a lot of it didn't land. It was a big issue of the actual villain and the actual thing that added in some intrigue and interest wasn't introduced until super late. So I kind of
Yeah.
just kept going. This is just a page of Deadpool killing people while he talks. This is just a page of Deadpool killing people while he talks. And I was not enjoying the Deadpool talking to nobody. And so overall, it landed very flat for me. I think the art's
No,
very
that's
good.
very fair.
Um,
Mhm.
and that's really what's like holding it up for me. I haven't read anything else from this writer, so I don't mean to cast aspersions, but at least his style with Deadpool did not land for me at all.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that those are all very valid points, and I would say that they don't totally disagree with what I was saying, because I think that I might have gone in with, I guess I'll say, lower
Lower expectations.
expectations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've read
So
some
I was
Deadpool stuff that I
pleasantly
enjoy.
surprised, whereas I think you might have been unpleasantly disappointed.
I don't think I went in with really any expectation. Like Deadpool's one of those characters. I feel like Deadpool is like the like what I say about Red Hood with DC, where it's just like
Mhm.
it's so easy to poorly write them. But like they are cool characters that you can do cool stuff with. Um, so yeah, this was my disagreement was more where you said like you felt that it was heartfelt. Like that was the one where I was really like, no, I that did not
I
land for
mean,
me at all.
that's
I thought
fair.
I actually what I wrote was like, man, they are really driving home his upsetness and loneliness because it feels like he's repeating the same things about being upset and missing this person again and again. And I'm like, I get it. Either show me the character, do something with it, or stop saying the same. And the other thing is, it's basically like him talking as himself, and not in the fun old Deadpool who used to have voices in his head way. Like, I feel like this issue would actually be better with the old Deadpool who had voices in his head, because then at least there could be like back and forth and stuff. Instead, there's like real Deadpool talking to like caption Deadpool, and I'm like, it's just too much Deadpool on every page talking.
I mean, fair enough. You want to slap a rating on this? This
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
rambled
rambled there so that you really couldn't
No, you're
respond a ton. I really rambled on my.
No, you're good.
Again, I think it's a very competent comic book, but it's one of those things where like just all the pieces together didn't do anything for me. I was left very just, It was a comic book, so I gave this a 4 out of 10.
Ooh, that's rough. I'm gonna disagree with you on the number. I think 4 out of 10 is a bit harsh. I gave it a 6 out of 10 because I think that it was a comic book and I liked the art and there was a dog. Because my kind of baseline is, if it's I'll give it a 5.
I'm not gonna throw any aspersions on you for disagreeing, but I am shocked by how surprised you were after the review I just gave the book that I gave it a 4 out of 10.
It was more so that I was surprised that you said, it was a comic book 4.
Yeah, like, it was a comic book that I didn't particularly enjoy any one aspect of, and I actively disliked Deadpool in it and his jokes, and I don't like books that just throw jokes at the wall. Deadpool is one of the few characters who can get away with it, but really when it's funny, and especially when there's another character getting pissed off at Deadpool, because then I'm like, okay, he's doing it, I don't have to do it, you know? If there's nobody there getting pissed off at Deadpool,
when the funny thing is the relationship and the tension there, rather than the jokes themselves.
Yeah, so, 4 out of 10, that's where I land.
You know?
But I would not recommend this book to anybody, enough. I'm sorry.
Honestly, me either.
I'm sorry.
Let's take us to an end on our pull list rec for the week.
Yes.
So we are going to go talk about Cyborg.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Back Issue Review. We are finally diving into the first volume of Cyborg Rebirth, The Imitation of Life, when a shocking discovery about his own origin makes Victor Stone question everything he thought he knew about his identity and his humanity. It seems Cyborg might be more machine than man after all. But if that's the case, which side will Cyborg take when a mysterious cybernetic entity decides to start a war between machine and man? Now the people Victor Stone cares about the most are caught up in the crossfire, and the choices he makes may mean the difference between the survival of mankind and an artificially intelligent future. Can Cyborg display the heart of a hero, or will he be torn in two by his dual nature? The writer on this series is John Semper Jr. The pencilers are Paul Pelletier, Will Conrad, Timothy Green II, Alan Jefferson, and Derek Donovan. The inkers are Tony Cordos, Sandra Hope, Scott Hanna, Tom Palmer, Will Conrad, Joseph Silver, and Derek Donovan. The colorists are Guy Major, Hi-Fi, and Ivan Nunes, and the letterer is Rob Lay. I don't know if any two issues of this book had the same artist on them.
I don't think so.
Which was maybe my least favorite thing, because some consistency is nice. But
I agree.
How'd you feel about the series, Katie?
So the first issue in the volume is that issue 1, that Rebirth one shot that we read. So good.
Gotcha.
So good. Gotta reiterate.
The best.
It's
just
so
the best.
good.
It's
so
just
good.
The best.
It creates this really intriguing villain with this voiceover, with these mysterious plans. Yes, yeah. It leaves all these little hints about the evil plan, while also introducing Cyborg's backstory super concisely, and also giving us the angle on Silas as well, which I think is really important for the story going forward. The action scenes are phenomenal. The stakes of it feel so high as they're breaking into Star Labs. We get these cool reveals about Cyborg, and then that really great bit at the end where we see the malware taking on the form of Silas and be like, I'm going to be a better father for you than your real dad, because I'm going to be your cyborg dad. and it's so good.
You're Cyborg Dad.
And then I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't super jazzed about the rest of it.
I I felt like it was more of a slow loss
Hmm.
of love for me than immediate. I liked the Kilgore bit in issue
Hmm.
2 quite a bit. I thought that was more great action. Like that felt like it carried that
Hmm.
immediately. I quite liked um most of the stuff with name did
Sarah.
I not put Sarah, thank you. With Sarah, I thought that that was some cool stuff like playing
Hmm.
with his humanity and figuring out like kind of is I also like one of the only things I liked once we got towards the end was, and it was pretty obvious that it was coming, but like the reveal that Sarah was like the missing, like I thought that was a
Yes,
cool
yeah.
idea that
Because
she
for a bit
knew.
of context, Victor has had some of his memories like shut off by Silas,
Yes.
and he's getting them back online. And we see this, romance blooming between him and Sarah. And he keeps very specifically being like, "You're such a good friend," as she's like
Yeah.
holding his arm and stuff. And
Yeah.
so it becomes clear, one, that she is in love with him. And then two, when we get the reveal that he doesn't remember who he's in love with,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's her. And then
Yeah.
it is confirmed to be
Yeah.
her.
It also like retroactively makes a lot of the writing make more sense because like while I liked it, there was this bit of like, man, she's really just like pulling it, like it was a little bit of like doting, and then once you get that reveal, it's like, oh, it's because
Hmm.
she in her mind is already in a relationship with him,
Yeah.
so it makes more sense why she's acting the way that she is prior. So it's like
No, I
that I
liked
thought was
her.
the big strength
Mm.
of the back half.
Hmm.
The weakness was one, the last issue does nothing. I don't know what the
Right?
last issue was. It was not good. The back half of the art in that issue I really disliked.
There were a
um
couple of bits of art where I'm just like,
it was
oh,
issue. It was. I think it was actually issue 3 because it was chapter 4 in the book. So
Mhm.
chapter 4 and the back half of the last issue, I was just like, this is. It's the part 4 was the one with the Justice League, like right where
Yeah,
the Justice League is like
yeah,
first introduced. I was like, what's going on here? Um. So yeah, there were the art was super up and down, which
yeah.
was rough as it just kept switching. Um.
And I think
But
with that, there
yeah,
is, because that's obviously going to happen if you bring on, like, what is it, like six or how many different artists?
it's one, two, three, four. It's 5 pencilers, but one, two,
Mhm.
three, four, 5, 6, 7 inkers. So I think
Yeah.
some of the pencilers return for
Mhm.
multiple issues, but they're inked by different people, which then still changes
Changes
the
the way it
vibe a
looks.
bit.
So obviously, you're going to like some art styles better than others.
Yeah.
I just, I don't understand why they thought that was the move. Like, I would
Well,
get
was
it
this a
if it
twice
was
monthly?
just. I think a
Because they were
lot of
doing that.
rebirths were.
Yeah. So like
So
I could get having
maybe.
the 2 creative teams that a lot of books had, but there's books that were fine with the 2 creative teams because at least it
Yeah.
was consistent like on every like this just
Exactly,
kept
and I would
changing.
get it if, because we have these sequences where Cyborg is like having, they call them nightmares. They're probably some sort of weird
They
programming
were
that.
revealed to be malware like in his
Yes, yeah, yeah.
system.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know what I would call the
Not to be confused with
technical
the
term
character
for it.
malware, like actual malware that
Yes,
malware put in him.
yes.
If that wasn't
Malware
clear
gave
from what
him
I was saying.
malware.
Yeah, like
Uh,
malware, real life malware, word usage, not character malware. But it
yes,
was put there by the character malware.
malware
Is this
put
confusing?
hostile programming in Cyborg's brain,
Yeah.
which gave him what we'll call little nightmares. And I would get it if the art changed up for those to be like, oh, we're
Yeah.
in cyberspace now.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case,
Yeah.
and it made the reading experience much less good. I think
Yeah.
having the artist constantly changing out.
I agree. I think that's it's because the thing when the art's at least consistent is you either go this is for me or this is not for me,
Hmm.
and then you move on.
And you
When
get
it's
used to it.
Yeah, when it's constantly changing, it's like, wait, where's I? But I love that issue. I actually also love the first issue of the main series art. I thought
Hmm.
the art for the I don't
Yeah.
know if that was the same or if it had changed it, but I thought the art in the first actually I think across the first 3 issues, I was actually like, no, this is all really good. It was mostly action stuff. It was
Hmm.
the malware, and then it was Kilgore. I thought these hostile machines looked amazing, and I really liked
Agreed.
all the action and stuff across that. And then it just kept changing. And I was like, well, I don't like the person who's doing the action sequence between Superman and Cyborg as much. I don't think this looks as good as the
Hmm.
action had looked earlier. And then it went back, and I was like, okay, this is a little bit better. Oh, no, wait, no, now it's worse again. And that's like within the same issue, it starts changing. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I know DC was like fire on the ass of artists at this point. Like, it was crank out books.
Yeah.
So I get that they were just like slapping pages together, but it starts to feel like that at some point.
Exactly. Like, just because it's DC's fault doesn't mean that it makes the end product any
doesn't
better.
suffer. Yeah.
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 And I also wasn't a fan of a lot of the writing style of the book. I feel like there was a lot of especially when it came to the way Cyborg was using his technology. I understand that it's hard to visually do like I'm hacking the mainframe type thing. Like, there's a reason you've ranted about this before. There's a reason that hacking scenes in movies don't work. But I feel like with the Cyborg, when he would do this stuff, we would see a bit of information on the page, and then he would oftentimes repeat that information. Like when he accessed the Justice League database on Kilgore, it had the database thing, and then Cyborg like said more information from it, and it's like, okay, just put it all in there, or have it all be dialogue, or you frankly don't have
I didn't really
dialogue.
read the actual database things. There were too many of them on that page. I was like, I'm just gonna read what he's saying because he's saying it anyway. I don't need the.
But he was saying it in such like an expository way too, and it never felt like.
That was you're talking about the last issue here, right? Where he's pulling up the database of like the gangbangers and stuff, or are you talking about the
that one, but also specifically in the fight with Kilgore?
Okay, I don't really remember it in the fight with
because he pulls up the Justice League database on it, and that was just the one example that I pulled.
When he was saying Kilgore's powers and stuff, that was weird. Yes, I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. That's super fair. That was like the one gripe I had with that issue, I think, because I really did like that issue quite a bit.
Yeah, and I just kind of picked that one out because that's the first time that I made note of it. Yes, but it did pop up in other places where it felt like Cyborg's use of his powers ended up just being kind of doubled up on the page in a way that was clunky and like quite literally the epitome of tell don't show.
Yeah. That was certainly an issue throughout, but I'm not quite willing to say I didn't like the writing style, because I think that John Semper really excelled at certain points. Like, I really liked his writing of Cyborg emotionally. I liked the stuff with his father. I liked the kind of slow building of the villain, like looking in the shadows. I thought a lot of the writing there was really cool. And up until the last issue, I thought his pacing and his building was really well. And then the last issue, I was just like, why is there a filler issue at the issue that's like going to be the end of an arc? Like, I get you not necessarily writing for the trade, but like, at least think about it enough to not make the issue that's going to be the last issue in a trade a filler issue. Like, that's rough. That's lame. But yeah, I liked a bit of the writing. I definitely felt it was too expository at times. There were also things that were introduced that just didn't do anything sometimes. Like, there were points where I was just like, why did we have this scene? Like, it just happened and then left and the book moved on. And so that was certainly a little bit of a gripe that I had. So the writing was up and down for me. Again, like, it was a slow trickle out of love with this book because I was so into the story. I was so into this idea of his cyborg more machine or man. I was so into the villains. I was so into so much going on here. I like the way the romance was being built.
Silas gets fucking body snatched. Like, Malware steals Silas and replaces him. And that's such a cool vibe. And like seeing Silas trapped in this bubble, like where he's watching everything happening with Cyborg and helpless to do anything about it. So cool. But then I feel like it was so often ruined by the way that Silas would then like be like, no, don't do that. And he would just say dumb things while watching this. And it was another thing where I'm like, I feel like there are so many really cool concepts in this book and really cool plot threads, but then I don't love the execution of them.
Yeah, I feel like it was there were some that I loved everywhere from idea to execution, then there were some where I was like, I get what you're kind of trying to do here. And then it's a little bit weird. Like, I didn't love the whole like Cyborg wondering if he has a soul, and the answer to that is soul music, because they're both soul, I guess. I was like, that I liked a little weird to me.
I liked the blind old man.
I liked him.
Did they just call him Blue?
They called him Blue, yeah. I liked Blue a lot.
I
Up
liked
until the
him a
last issue where it was
lot.
just like a little side quest with Blue that does nothing. And I was
Yeah.
like, why?
And like I liked his interactions with Cyborg a lot, which made the jazz club make more sense for me for like, oh, he feels like he's becoming human because like there's the human element
Yeah.
to it. And I'm also a goober for like live music versus like I love just sitting next to someone playing an instrument. Great vibes. So I do get what's Cyborg be like, oh, this is what it feels to be human, because there's a vibe. Um,
Yeah.
but I did really like Blue, and I liked their interaction so much, and I even like what they're going for with like Cyborg knowing like the streets of Detroit from a map point of view, but Blue being blind and able to point out who everyone is on the street even without being able to see them. Of that kind of idea of like top down superhero
Yeah.
versus kind of street level superhero. And we know that I love a street level superhero on this
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that's one of those ideas though where it's like it didn't do anything. Like we had our story, and then this was like a second story shoved in there that wasn't really contributing to the first story we're doing it. Not Blue in general, like the Blue
yes.
humanity and stuff.
Mhm.
Great, that absolutely ties into the main story. But then once we get to street level, like it felt like the whole kind of. I think Superman's typically the character who you'll have the story with, where a similar like big Green Lantern has had the story too. It's Green Lantern, Green Arrow, the most famous Green Lantern and Green Arrow story of like you see from up there and you have your like big picture stuff, but you don't understand us little guys on the street and you got to look out for the little guys. Like that's an interesting story. Maybe for the next arc
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we do this story? Like what happened to this whole malware? Are you human or not? Like this is a different story that you've just started for no reason, and it felt weird to me.
No, for sure. I agree.
But
It's weird to include as the last issue of this volume. So whether or not I liked it as a like kind of standalone thing, its presence here was weird and seemingly at the expense of actually wrapping up the story that they were trying to tell in this first volume.
Yeah, fully agree. And it was not helped by it being my least favorite art in the book. So
I would agree, but I think that it changes artists.
Sorry, the back half being my least favorite art in the book. It's just, but
like there's, I think that especially with, not to jump back to the art, I can really get behind like a cartoony art style. Like I love a stylized book, but I feel like a stylized book needs one stylized writing to go with it. Like the art and the writing have to go together. And two, that has to be like a draw of the book. Like it has to embrace that instead of having it just kind of dragged and dropped in.
Yeah. Because we keep like I want to because I did not dislike this book. I actually liked this book overall. That last issue really threw me for a loop because it was like this is where we're ending, and I really didn't like that last issue in almost every way.
And Hunger in the Dust
up until that, like that's where it lost me. Like up until that point, I was still, for all my gripes, for all the little like things that were needling me, I was still invested. I was still excited for Cyborg. I think the main compliment I want to give this book is I think John Semper has maybe written one of the best Cyborgs from a character standpoint that I've read. I think Cyborg is so well understood. I think that he has a clear picture for where he wants Cyborg to start and end. I think we don't get a full character arc in this volume, but I'm not going to gripe on that, especially if this was coming out 2 a month. Like he doesn't need a full arc in 3 months. I can see the picture. I can see the way that we're progressing through the picture. So I want to give that credit to, I think Cyborg's really, really cool here. I really, really like this idea for Cyborg and the way that he's handling Cyborg. And when you pair that with some really cool action, some really cool ideas and stuff, like I'm engaged throughout most of this. So I just want to say that I really did enjoy a lot of this for the strange and oddities that it has.
No, yeah, and for again, for all of my gripes with the art, we've mentioned the action scenes kind of in passing. Like pretty much all of the action scenes, save that Superman one, are so cool. Basically, anytime that Cyborg is fighting a machine, it looked so good. And I can imagine that's probably why there was a lot of artists kind of swapping, because I think that it's like, nobody's going to make Kirby level tech quickly. And so having all those moving parts. Exactly, except Kirby. And so having all those moving parts was so cool to see,
Yes.
and it really made the machines feel so like terrifying and alive.
Yes.
One of my favorite things was when fighting Kilgore, Silas is like informed that Cyborg is getting into a fight, so he immediately pops an illegal Yui, like totally disrupting traffic. We love that for him. Um, but then Kilgore like comes out of his car because he also exists just in anything electronic, and he's
Yes.
able to hijack Silas's car, and that was such a
Yeah.
cool scene.
Yes.
I really liked the Silas in the bubble scene where Cyborg, uh, the bubble is full of gas that'll eat away at Cyborg's machinery.
That was actually probably like my least favorite like point of dialogue. Like I just
Oh yeah,
hated the level
that
of explanation that came from that wasn't Malware, right? That was at
no, that
that
was
point it was
Kilgore.
Kilgore. Yeah.
Kilgore was
Kilgore
a
just like
little chatty for me.
Kilgore just explained. I liked a lot of Kilgore's lines though, but then like there it was like, so this gas and it's there, and then when it's exposed and it'll start melting you and like this and that, and I was like, dude, your trap has like 18 million parts. You have to explain the Cyborg for him not to be able to like instantly do that. So I was like, dude, chill. That was a little bit. You could have
No,
made the trap a little bit simpler.
I
But
think he was also a little much when he because this fight comes right after a totally not a date with Sarah, and
Yeah.
Kilgore like drops her off the side of a building, and he makes like some dumb comment like, "I knew you would catch her. I was just waiting to see your humanity so I could destroy it." It's like, okay, I feel like you just wanted to drop Sarah off a building. You don't need to. You don't need to explain yourself. You're evil.
Yeah, I didn't mind. I didn't mind a lot of it because like I don't know, like, and I think this was like maybe I was making excuses for stuff in my head because of how much I liked like the other things besides the dialogue a lot in this book. But for a lot of the characters, I was like, oh well, this is a robot. Like he's kind of talking like a robot. I was like, that works for me. Silas is a little bit like weird and socially awkward, but like he's this secluded scientist who lost his wife. Like I can justify that. And I thought Sarah, who was like the only Sarah and Blue, who were like the only normal characters, were for the most part written like normal characters. So I was like, I can kind of see what's going on with the dialogue. And for me, it actually at points pulled me in more instead of shoving me away.
Fair.
So I was again, I enjoyed this quite a bit until that last issue. And I hate to keep making that like distinction, but it is a distinction.
No, that's totally fair. Do you feel ready to slap a number on it?
I really don't, because I don't know how to rate something that it's like, one issue in this thing is just so much different in my opinion than the rest. I don't know where to slap a number on this.
I've had my number. I feel bad. It is one of the lower ones that I've given. It's not going to get a chance in the top 10. I'm giving it a 5.5 out of 10. I think that it was way too up and down for me. A lot of the dialogue just didn't work for me. I feel like there was a dial that was turned to like 10, and I could have used it in the like dialogue. I could have used it turned to like 7.
That's fair.
So 5.5 out of 10. It doesn't end up on my top 10 list.
Gotcha. I'm gonna.
That first issue, fucking elite.
Oh my god. Honestly, I think the second issue was just as good in my opinion.
The second issue also
the first issue of the main series. You know, again, is also an issue 1 because DC.
Issue 1 and issue 1 elite.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on the list. I've made the decision. Not to spoil because we'll read the list in a little bit, but the rating I'm gonna land on is a 7 out of 10, which is my standard like good, enjoyable book rating. I don't want to let the one issue that I actively disliked like pollute it too much, because I was probably enjoying the rest of the book at around like, I don't know, an 8, maybe a little bit above an 8. Like I was enjoying it for all its faults up until that. I think that the overarching story is just so engaging.
It is.
That I was really like on the edge of my seat for a lot of it. So if we're rating with personal enjoyment, I'm going to drop that 7 out of 10 on this.
That's fair.
But
yeah, the story
you want to read out the same
good.
exact top 10 list that you had last week, and then I'll read my adjusted one?
Absolutely. My top 10 list. Number 1, Noctera, Full Throttle Dark. Number 2, The New Teen Titans, Volume 1. Number 3, Above Snakes. Number 4, Maze Book. Number 5, The Mirage TMNT 1 through 3 and the Wrath one shot. Number 6, Batman and Robin, Volume 1. Number 7, Chicken Devil, Under Pressure. Number 8, Pretty Deadly, Volume 1. Number 9, World's Finest, Batman and Superman, The Devil Neza. Number 10, we have my cheesy little tie for number 10. You had yours for a bit. I'm allowed to have it now.
I did. It's gone, though. You
It's
can't be
gone,
mad
though.
anymore.
It's
It's gone.
My cheesy little tie for number 10 is Radiant Black, Not So Secret Origin, and Paper Girls Volume 1. How's your list looking?
Yeah. So my list is looking, we got Mirage, TMNT 1 through 3, and RAF at the top of the list. We have
at a 9.75.
Yes. Listen, I don't have to read out the numbers here. People can go back and watch our previous episodes to remember the numbers. Number 2 is Nocterra Volume 1. Number 3 is Batman and Robin Volume 1. Number 4 is New Teen Titans Volume 1. Number 5 is Maze Book. Number 6, Above Snakes. Number 7, Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. Number 8, Radiant Black Volume 1. Number 9, Pretty Deadly Volume 1. And I'm going to slot Cyborg right on the number 10 slot there, and it will bump out Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1 from the list. So yeah, Cyborg will exist on the list until we have another, top 10able book. And then, oof.
Which actually, I think this week might be the first time that a book we read hasn't made it onto my top 10.
I think I've done it once. I think
you have too. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah,
it might have been.
But yeah,
Rain?
it's not super typical. We haven't done that. Like, I guess we've done 21 now, so we are now at the point where there's just as many off the list as on the list. But until this week, it was even or less, so it made sense that a lot ended up on the list.
And I do like when we. I do like that we're doing more books that we don't immediately know, and we're like, no, we like this book. So I'm excited to figure out what I'm going to decide we do for next week, because I definitely already know. Totally.
For people who maybe don't know our recording schedule, which is everybody, Katie's gonna have to decide literally immediately as this recording ends as we record the outro for this week. So yeah, she's very well prepared.
I'm very well prepared, just like we both are every single week.
Oh yeah. We're very prepared.
But before we get to our big reveal for what the back issue review next week will be, we have an interview. We're joined by Sapo from Wanted Man, Tales from the Garden, just garden comics in general. Wonderful conversation. So excited to chit-chat with him. So let's go over and chit and chat.
Let's talk a little Wanted Man.
All right, here we are in the Creator Corner. Today we have a very special guest. We're joined by Sapo, the writer and artist of Wanted Man, the creator of the Tales from the Garden anthology. You can find all his work on gardencomics.com, and you can join his Discord at discord.gg/bountyland. Now, Sapo, we like to start all of our interviews with the same question here. Just basically, how did you get into making comic books?
Wow. Well, thanks for having me again.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, I'm excited to do this. I got into making comics it's just something that I always wanted to do. I was just dipping into a lot of different creative lanes, kind of in my early 20s. And, I started as a music artist, doing kind of like just the indie rap scene. And I always had this like yearn to do my own graphic novel. So some of the things on my album covers were like characters that I was creating, and then I'd be like, "Yeah, guys, but I really have this comic I'm working on," and they'd be like, "All right, well that's cool, but who cares?" So I was always kind of like just pushing it to this side, just not taking enough time to really like work on my drawing, because I always felt like I was a good artist, but there was like a period in my there was a period in my early 20s where I was just like a lazy artist, and like when you're in high school, like you think you're really good, and then there was just a time where I was like, oh, did I lose it? Am I like bad now? So I had to get over that. Um, and my son was born in 2021, and as I'm getting ready for not having any time, I was recording a bunch of songs that I never released over the summer. I had just dropped my third music project in 2021. So I was like, okay, let me just prepare. Um, and then I was like, you know what? I think now that I'm going to be sitting at home, it's finally time to work on this graphic novel that I had been writing, um, which was something that I still want to do and is in the development. But I was just putting so much effort into writing it, like a couple different versions of it. Um, and uh, I had a friend who was just kind of taking off in the New York art scene. And just one of my like really close friends. And, um, I was starting to do some more paintings and commissions that way. Um, but he was really good at being like, the price of this painting is $4,000. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I would just be like, like, yeah, I'll take like $100 for whatever I'm doing. So he really pushed me, and together we started collaborating on a collaborative art show called Art Tunes and Cereal, where we were painting on cereal boxes as our canvases. And yeah, he's like the marketing genius. He said, what if we had an art show where instead of wine, we served cereal, and we had it on a Saturday. And so I was just like, okay, that's pretty brilliant. And I like put everything. My son, mind you, my son was like a month old, and so I'm working on art tunes and cereal, and there's this design for the '70s Apple Jacks, where it was kind of like this like scribbly kids drawing of these two, like a little boy and a little girl, and they have like this like weird, just basically like what would look like if a child drew it, face scribbled in. And I for my imagery for my album, Wasteland, I was using this ghost with these X eyes and a stitch mouth
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of like transforming from a couple characters that I was working on over the years. And so I took the '70s Apple Jacks, and I made a painting of it, and then I got a cereal box that I was working on. I had went to this thrift store. I'm sorry, this is a long answer,
No,
but
you're good.
I went to this thrift store, and I saw a toy gun, and I was like, man, that would be like really ironic if the prize inside of the cereal box was a gun. Like you if they
Yeah.
did used to do that, you don't see that today. So combined with that, it was called the Field Marshal pistol, and it was like maybe from like the '70s or something. So um, as I took the combination of my ghost with the X and Stitch mouth, the '70s Applejacks kids style, this gun, I worked on the front, which mind you, I already had like did a couple drawings, paintings of this, and it was what's cool about our modern phones now is like I have a picture in my phone for the exact moment I created Wanted Man, which was like at 11:40 October 16th, 2021. So that I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just draw a cowboy on the back with the combination of these things. And like, I was just automatically like, man, like that is, what's that? you know? Uh, it was, it was the next night I had woke up at like 1:30 in the morning, and I was just like, man, what is that cowboy? Um, I was spelling my Wasteland album with three V's for the W,
Hmm.
which nobody would get if you didn't understand that, like, it was my third album with a V on the cover, so I was like, yeah, it's Wasteland with three V's, and like I definitely like scrapped all that because like it's not good marketing. Um, so I can think this is it. Yeah. So I keep in here is the original sketches of Wanted Man.
Hmm.
Um, and so I the first one I had drew, I believe was this one. Um, and just like a really
Oh, very cool.
simple style,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and anybody who draws and or just ever put pencil to paper, I accidentally didn't save enough space, so I had wrote wanted, and then there was like this extra space right here, and then it just hit me. I was like, man, and then
Yeah.
it's wanted man. Um, so I without even like looking up, has there ever been a wanted man published? Later finding out there hasn't. Um, I was kind of like, okay, well, this like elaborate graphic novel that I'm working on, um, I can do something in this scribble scratch style, probably like put it out every week as a comic strip and kind of just like get my get my work going there. So I started to do that. I went to New York to do the show. I was like, you know, just excited tagging Wanted Man like on trains and like in like the subways of like Brooklyn. Like I was like really just being like a poser trying to like, but it's still cool like that I feel like part of his origin is in New York because like um that was like where it was like displayed before it was even like
Hmm.
put out as the strip. So I started to do the strips. The first one I cribbed the style of this old Billy the Kid comic very heavily. Um, which I would later find out that that's not a good thing to do. But and I was kind of insecure about that for a while, and then I kind of realized I was like, you know what? Who cares? It's like not like I what I really did was like I stole a lot of the poses from this
Hmm.
comic. And then the second one I didn't as well, and so I started to do those for the first 4 weeks I was releasing them. Um, it was first in black and white with just a little bit of splash of like red on there, and then I slowly started to do a couple more colors. Um, got to realizing, I'm a little bit more passionate than this scribble scratch style I'm saying I'm gonna do. So, um, I think this releasing a strip every week might have to be pushed a little bit further.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that was how I kind of the long-winded answer of how I got into comics.
No, that's super rad. Like you said, it's released on your website for everyone to see. It's completely accessible, uh, which is kind of unusual, at least from my experience, is that a lot of people will, do Kickstarters and they'll be pitching to publishers with a comic strip, even to a newspaper. What led you to releasing it on your website instead of, especially after you discovered this deeper passion for it, instead of finding a new home for it?
Um, well, I first released it on Instagram.
Hmm.
Like I had thought for a while with like the scroll method, I was like, man, it'd be so dope to do a comic strip. It's just perfect. Um, and then I started to put them on my website a little bit later, but I did just want to do it for free.
Hmm.
Um, I tried at one point to be like, oh, maybe people can pay what they want for one of these strips, and it's like that wasn't gonna work. And I was really worried that I was gonna like ruin any little tiny bit of audience that I had because like I was like now trying to sell. Even if it was, I was like, you could put my idea was like you can buy it for 10 cents or you could buy it for whatever you want. Maybe that will be true in the future, whatever, but I just love that, you know, when you see a old Marvel comic, it'd be like still 35 cents. Like I just love that.
Yeah.
So, I uh I just kind of have like the belief of, you know, putting everything out there for free, just to like get the audience as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I, I respect this Kickstarter hustle a lot. Um, I I just want to fund what I can myself right now, because I don't feel like I want to put that on the fans to be like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you guys have to give me money for this in order for me to do it. It's like I just want people to know how passionate I am about this, that I'm going to be doing this regardless.
Yeah.
And that's not no knock to anybody who
No,
does
yes.
Kickstarter. I will probably do a Kickstarter at one point for some aspect of it.
Gotcha. No, I think it's really awesome that you put everything out there free and easily accessible. We were talking a little bit before we started recording about how much kind of your art changes and improves throughout, you know, the course of the Wonder Man chapters. You spoke a little bit about how you took more time to kind of start doing stuff, but did you ever kind of have concerns about varying the art style throughout the chapters? Because you seem to just do whatever, you know, you feel comfortable with in that chapter.
Oh, yeah, well, thanks. I mean, I did have like a little bit of concern, a little bit more down the line, because, like, you know, when you're creating a character, you want to make them as consistent as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, well, Wanted Man dips into different worlds, because I guess I could have explained that better. He's a cowboy trapped in a video game, and he's going through different universes. So in we start off in Bounty Land, and then we go to the game Secret Swamps, where it's more of this kind of uh, uh, I would say it's like a earth tone mixed with bubblegum color palette. So like every two issues, I was trying to like improve with the art style, but still keep like the color palette to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I really, man, like I, I even just for a while would do a page or do an issue and then be like, man, everything I did in that last issue sucks. Like, like I'm like that's just how I feel. It's like
I think that's a
I'm just
common creator feeling.
yeah, yeah. And I think you kind of want to feel like that. It's just like, how do I get better? And yeah, I felt a little bit like, man, if I collect all this into a book, or what I want to do it for it physical, you know, people are gonna look at my older stuff and be like, man, like you're gonna start reading and be like, oh, this is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Like, oh, this is getting good. This is getting better. So, um, yeah, I'll save more for some other questions about what I plan to do with sort of this like remaster that I'm working on now.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll definitely have to dip more into that in a minute or two here. But I wanted to touch on community is obviously super important to Garden Comics, to you. You showcase Wanted Man fan art on your website, your social media, and even in the books themselves. You have the Discord that we mentioned where fans can engage with and even influence the canon of your book, become canonized in your book. How did all of that start, and what's been like the most rewarding thing about building that community?
Man, everything. I'll uh, I'll start with the fan art. Um, it just became like an idea that I was like, man, you know, I have this character. It was really like me cheating. How do I get more fan art? I was like, oh well, maybe I'll just do a fan art contest, and um, that way people can like mass spread and
Mhm.
follow, share it to their story. The first one I did was $200. This was like in 2022, which I put up myself, and then the next year, I was like, okay, let me hit up some of these people who have like supported me in the past that are small businesses and be like, hey, you want to throw $100 to this and be a sponsor of my fan art contest? And that one was 500, and then a $100 second prize. Um, so it was really just like mass spamming. I thought it was really cool because it's like you know, we had people from like four different continents being a part of this. Made a lot of cool friends through the fan art contest that I'm like, still connected with today. You know, um, that I just kind of see as my peers because they're doing so much cool
Mhm.
stuff too. I mean, I discovered my 3D artist through the fan art contest, and we became real tight. And plan to do so much stuff with him in the future. So the fan art contest stuff was really sick, but I had this post. I had this idea in my head um, for a social media post, and I was like, man, all right, everyone who comments their name. Well, I okay. Let me preface this. I did this painting um, of Clifford for this one art show. Oh, you guys are in Chicago. You Are Beautiful. Do you know what You Are Beautiful is?
No, actually.
Don't. Also not in
Okay.
Chicago.
Oh, you're not. Where
I'm
you at,
not.
Joseph?
No, I'm on the East Coast in New York.
Sick. Okay. All right. We're in New York.
Binghamton. I'm at Binghamton University. So yeah.
Oh, sick. Okay. Like, is that in the city or
Yeah,
is
it's
it
actually it's just out. It's actually in Vestal, which is like right on the border of Binghamton.
Oh, okay, sweet, man. All right. Well, good to know if I'm ever out that way. Um.
Not to derail
So
you answering the
no,
question.
I mean, yeah. I'm sorry. I'll stay on topic, but Joseph, I did check out your the janitor hero.
Oh, thank you.
I thought that was really cool.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
the art behind that, I was just kind of like, oh man, it got
Oh
me
yeah,
excited coming
that's
into
great.
this. Um, so anyway, You Are Beautiful. They're this organization, and they just have positive messaging. You are beautiful, and so I was like doing a community piece, and I was like, hey, everyone who comments their name on this, I'll write you on this. I'll write you on the graffiti styled onto this canvas, and that worked. I got like 500 comments, and I was like, okay, um, what if I did this with my comic somehow? What if I was just like everyone who comments their name in an Old West um, name, I'll make you a citizen in my town of Bountyland for my comic Wanted Man. It had like this really long thing, but I was like, make sure you say Wanted Man in there. Like, make sure. Um, because I was kind of worried. I was like, it as this goes, I was like, what if like this just becomes a Bountyland thing and like people forget about the comic or whatever? That was
Mhm.
a thing that I was thinking earlier. So I went to I posted that at like 6 p.m. And as you know, a lot of people on Instagram or whatever you use to post, I like posting ghosts. I was like, all right, if I post this and it does really bad, I'm gonna be really discouraged all night. Where it's like I worked really hard on this video, I'm speaking to everybody knows what that feeling is like.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so I was like, but if it does really well, I'm gonna be on my phone all night and I'm not gonna be able to draw, and I gotta get shit done right now. So I posted it, and then I looked at it in the morning and it had like 100 comments, and I was like, whoa, like that's awesome. Like I was like posting in my stories like, guys, Bountyland has 100 people in the population. That's sick. Whoa, whoa, whoa. So for a week it started growing and it got to like 1,000 comments. And then there was just one day, literally a week later, where um it doubled and it had got to like 2,000 comments. And go back to my genius friend in New York, where I was like, yo, I got my homie. I was like, I'm like very unrealistic sometimes. I was like, I got my homie who's making 3D already. Like, let's make a video game. Like, I don't, you know, like, um, my friend was like, my friend Luis, Ugly Fernandez is his name. I should shout him out. What the hell? Um, he was like, you should look into text-based video games. And I was like, okay, what's that? You know, I watched a couple YouTube videos. So I was like, and this is kind of really funny if you think about it. I was like, maybe it should be a Reddit. Should it be a Reddit or a Discord? I realize now Reddit would have never worked. Like that would
No.
have, like that would have like no. But my idea was, I was like, well, if people are always typing "wanted man" in Reddit, like Reddit is really good for SEO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you like, I'll post "wanted man" to like a Western or a cowboy Reddit, and like the next day you'll be able to type in "wanted man" and see it on Google Images. So that was my idea, but that would have never worked. That would have lasted like a day. Um, so I was just commenting to everybody in who had replied. Like people were doing like these really like long replies, like my character works at the library and their father died and they have a cat. Like they were really, really intricate. I was like, oh my God. Um, so I kind of just scrambled, and my friend, as I thought about it, and I decided, okay, let me do a Discord. Um, People will be able to. I don't even know what RPing is. Like I've never been in an RP Discord. I don't know. I don't know nothing. Um, but I was just kind of lucky that I was like, yeah, I guess you'd be able to just like say this is what you do. We'll figure out all the RPG aspects of you collect gold or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he was like, yo, I think you should chill and you should really figure everything out before you start to go inviting everyone. And as much great advice as he'd given me up to that point, I decided to say, nope, this is happening right now. I need to just do it. And so I just started inviting these people. And then like within like 3 days, it grew to like 100 people in the Discord. Um, and it, as the Instagram algorithm kind of works, like it had like a second life
Right.
where there was like a month later where it had grew from like 100 to like almost 200. But yeah, I mean, it's this is the part where I kind of slow down and like kind of like have to like reflect. I mean, what this community means to me has made me like tear up on multiple occasions, you know? Um, like you think the life of like a comic creator is just like such a lonely grind. It's hard to get your family and friends to just feel like you're not bothering them, to be like, hey, here's all my ideas that I have for my cowboy character. Do you want to listen? And they're like, sure, Chad. Like, all right, go ahead. Like, oh, cowboys again. Like, I have funny friends, man. Like, they like they. I have really good friends that have never read One Man. So, to just be able to talk to people so consistently about the world, it was just like kind of like overwhelming, you know, and then just be getting like, I was having to throw people money to do fan art. And then now it was just like feeling like every week, somebody was drawing something of Wanted Man that I could go post, to even the point where it's like, I'm not even posting every fan art now because there's a lot, not a lot, but there's a lot to me.
Yeah, yeah.
So somebody coined it as like it's like an organic novel in this way, like, which what I never heard, but that kind of like made sense. Um, where I'm the author, but people are contributing their characters to this world where it just deepens it so much. And I'm at the point um, in my writing where I'm just able to say, like, here's everything that happens in the world. Tell me about your character, and I'll tell you why your character fits in. I'll tell you. You say your character has a robotic arm. I'm gonna tell you why that would, in a science fiction way, make sense
Right.
to the cyber west is what I call Bountyland. So, man, I'm not gonna be saying, not gonna able to capture it enough, but like the people in the Discord have like, this is like the most fun time in my life. Um, Interacting with them every night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I think you said it very well there. You did a great job putting it into words. But kind of circle back to something you touched on a little bit earlier. You had mentioned ideas of a remaster. Is there any idea, or have you given any thought into some sort of a physical release of your work?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the plan. So sorry, I'm like doing an impersonation of my father where I'd ask him something and he'd be like, um,
Gotta think it through.
um,
Decide what to
yeah,
divulge.
the remaster idea had came because I was like, exactly as what I told you earlier. It was like, I want to possibly pitch this to a publisher that people are familiar with, like an Image or a Dark Horse, um, but it's not gonna look great to them. The progression in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
it might look great to artists and creatives and like the indie community, but if you're trying to get something that's like solid, it has to be solid. So I uh, I plan to do this remaster, which I've like paused my monthly release of the strips, which we're went from 1 pages to about 6 to 8 pages.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, guys, I'm gonna do full comic book form. I want to do 22-page issues now that I'm like better at making comics. Um, I'm going to not change everything, but I'm gonna go back and retell, fill in some gaps, lengthen out, um, catch up with my art style, and I'm gonna release them. I'm trying to get like two issues ahead
Hmm.
before I even while starting to work on the third one. I'll print it. if whoever I'm pitching it to doesn't pick it up, I'm gonna print it anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm really like I'm loving where I'm at with the remaster right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
such
awesome to hear.
a cool thing to see you revisiting, because you post so much rad stuff about it on your socials and stuff. Super cool stuff, and we will certainly be down to talk to you again if when that does start coming out in a physical form. We'd love to have you back. But I think that is
I'd
100%.
going to
love to.
wrap us up on today's interview, at least. Thank you so much for coming on, Sapo. It was such a delight to talk to you. Such a
Yeah,
cool
seriously,
and
thank you so
unique
much.
story with Wannaban and Garden Comics. And just as a reminder to everyone, gardencomics.com, Wanted Man, the anthology series, Tales from the Garden, and some really informative blog posts as well. I was just scrolling through. I'm not an artist myself, but really cool stuff to look at. Absolutely check everything out there. Any last things you want to shout out, Sepa?
No, I just appreciate you guys, and yeah, hopefully like, we can do this again.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to go work on the comic right now. So,
Yeah,
uh, yeah, just I appreciate the platform, and yeah, we'll do it again.
100%. And all of your information for anybody watching who wants to find you will be in the description of the video, podcast, etc. So if you want to find those links and you don't want to type them out yourself, you can grab them from the description. But that's all we have here for the interview.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
An awesome interview with Sapo. Thanks so much to him again for coming on. Remember, gardencomics.com to check out Wanted Man, to check out Tales from the Garden.
It's all free.
And all his other... Exactly, it's all free. It's all there. And his Discord will be linked if you wanna join that and become a part
Absolutely.
of that Wild West. But that's going to take us to an end of our episode for today.
That it
But
is.
not to worry if you're clamoring for more Script Heroes content. This past weekend, we posted a bonus episode, a bonus episode,
Yes.
where we read the first 2 volumes of The Walking Dead. It was my first time reading a Walking Dead book. Turns out Daryl wasn't in the comics. Who knew? Everyone except me.
Everyone except you. And then this Saturday, we're going to have the Strange Saturday Super Show. Have we decided what it is? Yes, we have, but Katie doesn't know.
Oh. What is our Strange Saturday Super Show going to be? This is such a thrill.
For our Strange Saturday Super Show, we are going to do Volume 1 of Sam Keith's The Max.
Ooh,
which will be the second image series that we've talked about, but the first very, very weird one that we will be talking about. And literally when we created the Strange Saturday Super Show, I think one of the first things I said to Katie was, this is going to involve a lot of Sam Keith.
I think I remember that. I do also remember us saying, oh, we should choose weird things. Not like DC, Marvel, or Image.
Yeah. Well, I was going to do Sam Keith's first book, and then I was like, wait a minute, The Max is weird enough on its own.
There you go.
So we'll do The Max, and then maybe we'll go back and do his other book at another point. But yes,
but of course, this coming Wednesday, we will have a regular episode of the Script Heroes pod. Jay, what are we going to be pulling for that?
We are going to be pulling the first issue of non-Daniel Warren Johnson art Transformers, which is Transformers number 7, still written by the man himself. We will also be pulling Sinister Sons number 3. We are pulling Monsters Are My Business and My Business is Bloody. And we're going to grab an issue 2 and back read the first issue as well. So join us for the first 2 issues of Napalm Lullaby being reviewed, because we've heard good things.
Yeah, want to get in on that action.
Yeah.
But also...
Katie, you have the secrets of next week's back issue review. You've teased me that it is a Marvel book, but I know nothing else.
You know that it's a Marvel book that I've read, which really narrows it down.
I don't know what Marvel books you've read.
Guess? I actually bring it up semi-often.
God damn. Unless it's the only... Like, I know that you're currently reading the Marvel book with Spider-Gwen, but I don't know a Marvel book that you've, like, read in the past. I have literally no recollection of this. Maybe I'm a bad friend who just doesn't listen.
That's clearly it. That's what I say about you all the time.
You haven't read much X-Men or Fantastic Four, I don't think. You haven't read Spider-Man, really, or Hulk.
I think you're
You
gonna
haven't
feel
read
like
any
a fool
Daredevil
because this is an
outside of what I forced you to read.
iconic book.
This is an iconic book. Marvel
is
doesn't
an
really have
iconic
many of
book.
those. Hot take. Marvel doesn't have many evergreen titles that people are like, you gotta go back and. It's just the truth. Sorry.
A roast.
Civil War? Like, I don't know.
No, but I have read Civil War. I think it was better than the movie. But that's not an opinion that I feel strongly about, so please don't come for me. I know nothing about Marvel. Except for Fraction and Aja's Hawkeye.
Oh, you talk about that a lot.
I do talk about it a lot.
Man,
I literally brought it up
fucking
last week. Yeah, we're going to be reading Volume 1, My Life is a Weapon. I go so hard. I know, hot take for David Aja's art. I am so thrilled to read through this together. And, show off that I do read Marvel books, actually.
Marvel book.
I do read Marvel book, actually.
But, hopefully, for that book, we will see you next week. Comic Geeks. I'm not seeing that anywhere.
Maybe someone on Twitter lied. I believe you. I also fell for like 6 different April Fool's things.